Good evening. This is Coach Green, and welcome to another episode of Greens Gridiron Exchange. I'm here with my co-hosts, Andy V and Willa from PHMG. How are you fellas tonight?
Oh man, everything's good, man. Just saw a good football game, man. Pretty good game that just ended, with that Chiefs Bengals. So that's pretty entertaining as usual. So good way to end the football night and come to the show before we get, I guess, the prime time game on.
Gotcha.
I didn't get a chance to catch too much. I actually been catching up over the weekend. Just watched a little bit of Largo Osceola. Watched a little bit of Clearwater CCC. So ready to talk a little bit of football. Where were you guys at this weekend?
So I was at Lakewood in Pinellas Park. It was a downpour prior to the game, and
Like always.
yeah, I would have thought like any other school they would have switched it to a school with turf, but I guess Pinellas Park probably already had everything set up and ready and it was late. And so they just kept it there. But man, huge puddles in the field and just slush. If you got a chance to see some of the kids posted their jerseys on Instagram, and Lakewood wore white jerseys, and you couldn't even tell they were white after the game. So that should just give you a picture of how nasty that game was. It even started to rain a little bit during the game, and then it stopped. So just a nasty, brutal battle for those guys out there on Friday night. So,
yeah, man. Where were you at this weekend, Andy? I know you probably were out of the county.
And out of the county, out of the zip code, everything. I was up in Stark, Florida for Mandarin at Bradford. It was I had Mandarin as one of the top 10 teams in the state, and Bradford was kind of on that precipice, and they ended up pulling off a 18-13 win over Mandarin minus. This is where I try to figure teams out a little bit because they played Mandarin without their Florida State commit at quarterback. And then Jamie French, he's a 5-star wide receiver. I mean, he ended up leaving at halftime. So kind of a tough situation for Mandarin. But, I mean, hate to take away anything. And I think we're going to talk about it here with St. Pete and PHU because obviously St. Pete was without a pretty key player. I know some people were like, man, what an upset. And I kind of was like, man, there's such a big asterisk next to that. I mean, kudos to the Hurricanes, but I mean, you're missing a huge part of your offense when you're talking about St. Pete. So, kind of takes a little bit of the, kind of the upset away. It's an upset still, but I guess it's not like I would like to see St. Pete at full throttle against them and then play it back.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, and we'll talk about, I think it's kind of unfortunate that it was that big of a gap without Jeff Jones because I see so much talent at St. Pete. Like they have a lot of talent. And then for them to, they prepared. They knew that they knew there was a great chance he wasn't going to play based on, why he was suspended. So, with all of that talent they have, it really didn't. I expected, like I said, I expected a tough game, but I still would have expected it to be much closer. With against a Palm Harbor team, that shows you how great Jeff Jones is. But I still had a little bit better expectations, and I think that really kind of I didn't let it affect. I kind of took it to the thought right before we got on the show because the teams that St. Pete has really beat, you have to look at it kind of like what we talked about last week. And let me go ahead and pull up our top 10. But something that we talked about a lot last week is the type of competition. And honestly, St. Pete has played Gibbs, Bogey, Palm Harbor. These aren't top 10 teams. And I had to take a look at that as well. And, even though we got St. Pete ranked at number 5, I know for my personal top 10, I definitely took a look at that the same way I had to look at it with Seminole. And why would we keep it Seminole so far now? And I mean, their one loss was against a tough Tarpon Springs team, and they played them tough. So I have to look at all of those type of things. So here's our media top 10. I know a lot, I know you guys kept Calvary up high, even though they've lost some games to some pretty strong teams. We have Largo at number 2, Tarpon at number 3. Why? So what is it that's keeping Tarpon kind of at number 3 and not moving them up to number 2 for you guys?
I like Largo's wins a little more than Tarpon's. That's all. I mean, obviously beating Northeast the way they did is convincing, 43-8. But I mean, I think the Vikings are kind of they've kind of been on a slide here, and they haven't really recovered. I mean, they lost to Mitchell at home pretty good, and it just seems like they've been on this downward slope. So to me, I wasn't like totally like sitting back going, wow, what a win, over Northeast. I mean, that's kind of the trajectory they've been on, is kind of getting blown out as of late. I know they started the season off with a close game, but then since then they've really it's almost like they took that first loss really hard and they just haven't recovered. And to me, that's kind of crazy because the season just started and then you all of a sudden can't recover from that. So Tarpon just below Largo. I just like what Largo's doing. It just seems like they shouldn't even be there, but they just find ways to win no matter who they play.
Yeah. Largo is super talented. Like we said, we knew they had the skill players. We just kind of were cautious about the numbers and new quarterback. So I feel like anybody that's looking at him, not knowing what the quarterback brings, and he brings game management, just like Jeremy Thomas did, and he's not really making any mistakes for that Largo team. What about you, Green? What you like Largo over Tarpon right now?
Yeah, just for the simple fact, the teams that Largo has beaten, and by the amount that they've beaten teams by, because I'm telling you, Pinellas Park is a team that's going to surprise a lot of people. They're real aggressive. They have a solid O-line, and they have a good coach who uses their players to the best of their ability. And Largo was able to beat them. They beat a tough Lakewood team. They beat a good, solid Logie team. And so you look at those 3 quality wins. I know they just barely beat Lakewood, but I think right now their resume sits a little higher from the teams that they've beaten. And their 4-0 looks just a tad bit better than Tarpon Springs 4-0, from that standpoint. So that's what I gave them, kind of the nod, going, from, moving up to that second place spot. And Tarpon Springs is right there, that win, like Andy said, against Northeast, like we all thought it would be a little closer, just because I thought defensively, Northeast is one of the more sound teams in the county as far as defensively. I know they struggle offensively, but I didn't think that Tarpon Springs would push 40 on them, would put 40 up on them. And that was a real shocker, eye opener to say, like, Tarpon Springs is for real. So I have no problem putting them at number 3. Largo was just a little bit ahead because of the resume. So that's why I kind of moved Largo up to that second spot.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys on that. Largo, they deserve to be there. They've climbed from the bottom. They deserve to be there. They've defied the odds. And this week, I mean, if they could beat this team, even though this team that they're playing this week, Clearwater, is 1-3. Once again, we still know that talent-wise, Clearwater can. They're like Lakewood. It's really on them. If they can show up full force, they're in trouble. So this is a big win for Largo. I think this is if Largo could get to 5-0, I think really sky's the limit for the bottom half of their season. So I love Largo. I love Tarpon Springs as well. Pinellas Park 3-1. Got to respect the fact that the only team they lost to is Largo. which was a close game. So that's got to be beyond respected. On top of the fact of how they play Lakewood and how they've been playing that game. Like I said, St. Pete at 3-1. We got him in number 5. Like I said, it was a big loss. I was kind of hesitant to put them in my number 5. I actually had Seminole. I went ahead and bumped Seminole up to my number 5 just because, like I said, I think that at the end, when you really look at it, they both really have had. I mean, their strength of schedule so far probably hasn't been that far off. But I think that Seminole this week, they have Dunedin coming up. So I think that eventually they're going to probably scoot down a little bit because of that. They're going to, but then I think the week after that, they have Osceola. So that's going to be their season test, their real big test. What you guys think about keeping Cavalry at number 6?
I mean, they're 2 losses. I think it goes back to like when we were talking about Northside last week. I think they got some consideration, and I just look at kind of the losses. Like, who in this top 10 outside of CCC would even pinch First Baptist Academy or Bishop Verot? And I'm just going to go and tell you guys, I've seen both of these teams, and I don't think these teams on the list would touch them. And I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just stating I don't think they would have the guys to keep up with them. I mean, they might be able to for a half, but then, just talent would take over. I mean, Bishop Verot, laid up 56 points on Venice, but lost. I mean, First Baptist Academy has several, Power 4 level players. No knock on the Largos and the Pinellas Parks and, what they're doing. It's just they don't have enough of those horses. So, and Tarpon, same deal. I mean, I don't think they will hold up with those teams. I think you would see similar, if not worse, scores. So that's where I start to gauge Cavalry. I hate to just look at the record and go, okay, Northside's better than Cavalry. I think that would be, I don't know. For me, it'd be like a silly statement. I don't think anyone could agree with that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, definitely understand.
Yeah, that's similar to how I felt. The 2 teams that they played was just tough, teams that probably none of our teams in the top 10 or on this list probably been able to hang with either. So it was kind of like one of those, do you knock them for the team that they played in the record, or do you look at how the team that they have and where they would compare to the teams that's on the list? So that's kind of how I looked at it as well.
All right, then we got Lakewood, of course, got to respect. They lost to Pinellas Park, one of the top teams. Got Seminole, Clearwater. So, I mean, my question is, I guess, if Clearwater does not pull it out this week, do they stay at the top 10?
Nah, not for me. They don't.
Yeah, too tough to have a 1-4. Theirs goes to almost like a Northeast in a sense. Like they're just kind of, and I think we touched on it last week. I mean, I think I was painting out this district scenario because what looks so bright for them and possibly like kind of the road to prosperity to being the district champ, because you're in a district with I believe it's Countryside, River Ridge, and Gulf. Well, I mean, you got to look at River Ridge is undefeated. Gulf is, they've got a couple wins under their belt. I mean, if you're Clearwater, I mean, no matter how many talented guys you got, how are you mentally? How are you feeling going into those games? Because I think that's something we underestimate is how does one feel going into the game? Like, how are you feeling yourself as a team? And I don't know if the Tornadoes are quite feeling the way they probably felt before the season, which is like, hey, this is going to be a real nice season. We're going to go win a district title. We got all this talent. We're going to win some good games. We got some good games lined up, but we're going to win some of those games. They're not. So it's a spot. I mean, no pun intended to them being Tornadoes, but it's kind of spiraling.
Yeah, it definitely is. Even though Largo's 4-0, I don't know, man. I can't. I love Clearwater's talent, but I can't even continue to say, because it's just like I said. I watched the CCC game, and like I say, no running game. The shotgun, Jalen White rocket for an arm, but it's just not. It's just not coming together for them. I guess maybe defensively. I don't know. I don't know what's really going on, but I still love Cooper.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say a win over Largo, I think, would cure everything, but they got to win.
Yeah,
this is like a must win if there is for the Tornadoes. I mean, this is like a do or die for their season. I hate to even put it at that kind of level of urgency, but I got to believe Thor Joswiak is going to go into that practice on Monday like it's go time. Like if we don't figure it out now, we're not.
Right, definitely. And then of course we got Osceola at number 10. Osceola, I did not get. I think they're 2-2 now. Lost to some pretty solid teams. I like what I see on film from Osceola. I think every week they can win every game. There's not a team that could go in there. I mean, maybe outside of like CCC that you could just go in there and say, yeah, they're gonna just steamroll Osceola. I watched the game. I love what I'm seeing from Brent Scott as far as their running game. And they one thing about it, for the first half, they're going to give you everything they got. They just wear down a little bit in the second. They just wear down a little bit in the second half. And then, these teams, they kind of just, that's where the overpowering comes in. So I love Osceola. And I love Osceola at number 10. Love them at number 10. Let's go over. I don't know if you guys got any player of the year candidates or got any on your list yet. Still got the same usual suspect. Got Mr. Newton who showed up, huge, passing over 100, running over 100. He's pretty much just game manager at this point. Using what he has every week. He is just pretty much. He could pretty much do whatever he wants at however he wants at this point. It's kind of like they're preparing. They're getting playoff ready. They're priming for the playoffs. One thing I love about CCC, I watched that game. I mean, it seems like every single play they're rotating at least two players on offense. I mean, every single play, players coming in and out. Everybody's getting work for CCC. I mean, everybody. Kono at receiver. Hutchinson getting a lot of work at running back. Kono at receiver. But if not every other play, they're rotating people. So, I mean, they're deep. They're ready. And Sean Newton is the leader. Jeff Jones still at the top despite a suspension. Mason Stark, another big game. He's to the point now where he's averaging about 8 yards a carry. He has Colin Savoni over there who's really doing big things, but with Stark, he's on offense, defense, special teams. He's pretty much showing up in every facet of the game, and I'm pretty sure those stats are going to blow up playing a Dunedin team. And then we got Mr. Triplett. I have not gotten his stats yet, but one thing I can say is, I mean, unless he brought some big stats in, this might be changing next week because Mr. Hutchinson's running that ball real tough. Mr. Argala from SP St. Pete Catholic, he's running that thing real tough. On top of those other guys, even Mr. Jones.
Also, we may need to throw Mr. Ryan McNeil in there.
Oh, Zamir McNeil. Yeah, we haven't got his stats yet. So we're waiting. He's most likely gonna be top 5. Once we do, he was right on that outside. We just haven't gotten his stats. But oh yeah, he's definitely actually that's kind of probably who would be up next, honestly. Would be Mr. McNeil based on the wins and how he's shown up. And then you got Tank, Greg Thomas, 31 tackles, 6 sacks, the leading sack in the county, one of the top tacklers as far as D lineman. He's quietly doing what he's supposed to do. for his new team, CCC. As far as you guys candidates, do you guys have anybody different outside of course, we got Mr. McNeil?
Yeah, like I said, I mentioned McNeil. A guy also to keep an eye on is Caden Nobles. He came up big this week against Lakewood. I think he had two touchdowns, catches, and a big interception that he almost returned for a touchdown. And I think that if you look down at the bottom, he's one of the top. So those numbers probably are going to change because I know he did have 2 touchdowns just this past week. But both of those kids out of Pinellas Park, Mr. Zamir McNeil, I think he had 3 touchdowns on the ground. That offense is perfect for him. And you know, he's a tiny guy but strong. He's quick in between the tackles, and he's very fast once he gets in the open field. So those are 2 guys to look out for: Caden Nobles and Mr. Zamir McNeil out of Pinellas Park.
Yeah, Caden Noble's a very long stride, man, very fast. I mean, man, I saw him on tape last year, and I was like, his strides were ridiculous on top of that speed, man. And once he catches a seam, it's very, very tough to catch Mr. Nobles. And so I kind of saw that coming when his speed is so. I mean, the fact that I want to say, was it him and Anthony Harris? Were they playing together, or was it?
Yeah, he was at Indian Rocks, wasn't he? Caden Noble.
Indian Rocks. Yeah, man. Indian Rocks had those guys, man, and now they're going. I'm pretty sure they're like, man, they're missing those guys, but definitely. I like what we see as far as those player of the year candidates, but I'm definitely anticipating some change as far as that. So let's go ahead and ride it out with our top games, man. Got number 1 CCC at Trinity Catholic. I have not seen. Is that Trinity Catholic out of Ocala? Let me see.
Yes. Yeah.
Trinity out of Ocala. How are they looking, Andy? Usually pretty good.
Not the same team of the last couple of years that reached a Class 1S state championship. This is a team that, their quarterback, Preston Wright, of the last couple of years. I was at that CCC Trinity Catholic game last year when they handled them. And, I expect them to take even more control this time around, probably earlier on, to where they can – you said they're rotating like crazy. They could probably start rotating even earlier because I think the Marauders they'll run away with this one. I know Coach John Brantley, he always runs a tight ship over there at Trinity Catholic, but this is kind of a younger team, and I just don't. I think where the 2 teams are at compared to the last couple of years, I don't think is. They're just not on that same level. I think CC's a route.
Yeah, Mr. Brantley, definitely much respect to him. Long time coach. Love what he's done over there at Trinity. But yeah, they're just not putting any points on the board, really. They're most quarters they're averaging 3.5. Yeah, they're just not putting up enough points that's going to really keep up with the CCC type team. There's nothing I see as far as any of the players that they have or anybody that could really, really, really show up and do anything as far as CCC concerned, except maybe Mr. Poole on defense. I can't see anything, so I definitely love this. This is another warm-up game for CCC Trinity Catholic. Somebody actually asked me, they were like, where's Kuno been? Where? I was like, man, it's so many people moving in and out that people haven't noticed that he's there. He's a receiver. He's there. And like I said, CCC, they're big rotation game. They're doing everything they can right now. And the playoffs, I think he's going to be ready. He's already committed. No point of working, running him like a workhorse. You know what I'm saying? When we could keep him healthy and possibly use him in when it's time for the playoffs. So I love CCC. I'm pretty sure Andy loves CCC as well. What about you, Green?
Yep, you should have just said, and I'm pretty sure you Green love CCC. You know, those guys are just too talented, man. You know, Trinity Christian is a team like Andy was saying, who's with their coach normally has those guys ready, so they'll give them a test for a few minutes in the first quarter, and then a couple of touchdowns get on the board, and everything will go back to the way it was. So
Definitely, man. We got number 2 Largo versus number 9 Clearwater. Man, I think this is a game that could have been number 2, number 3. If Clearwater would have been winning out like we thought, this could have definitely been top 5 game, and I still love it. You know, I still love a game. I believe it's at Largo, but this is a battle of Clearwater. This is 2 teams that are fighting for that title to be the best in the city. I mean, I gotta go with the hot hand with Largo, but it wouldn't surprise me if Clearwater looks at this like a playoff game, which they need to, because if they want to win the playoffs, I mean, looking for at golf and those other guys, these are the type of teams that they really need to take serious. But I love Largo on this one. I love Anthony Harris and what he's doing. I just have not seen a running game from Clearwater yet, so I have to go with the more balanced offense.
yeah, and if Largo is able to run the ball on Clearwater like we've saw within the last few games, Lakewood was able to run the ball. That's what kept them in the game. I didn't get to see them against CCC, but I'm pretty sure CCC was able to run the ball to keep them in the game. And so just because Largo, I think, will have a formula with their secondary and with their guys up front, I think they're going to cause problems for Clearwater, and they'll be able to run the ball on them. So
what you think, Andy?
I mean, this is like low key game of the week. I mean, you know, you're looking at it's a 2 versus 9, but the 9, I agree with you. I think they have all the intangibles and talent to be. I mean, they were the number 2 team at one point. They just, they've lost these games, and it's taken them in a different direction, and it's taken Largo. They've basically traded spots. So, like I said, if I'm Coach Josriak and that staff, I mean, I don't think the time to turn up is when you start to play your district games. I think you got to do that beforehand, because the Golfs and the River Ridges, they're going into that game. They're going to believe they're the underdog. So they're already coming in like with an X on Clearwater's back. Clearwater has to find some confidence from within, and I think that has to start against Largo. And if they don't do that, I mean, I just don't see where this magically happens out of nowhere, where they just decide we're the big dog in the district. They're going to have to really have a reality check this week and find a way to pull off this win. And if they don't, I don't know. I mean, for me, it would be hard to see them just steamrolling Gulf or River Ridge whatsoever. I think now it becomes it's anyone's district between the 3 teams.
Definitely. Okay, all right. So next up, we got Mr. Joaquin Kavuklis. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right. And Tarpon Springs. We've been pretty quiet on him so far this year. And he's been quietly back there just producing. I know at the beginning of the year, we talked about, the competition between him and Mr. Angelo, but he's been quietly producing, using his target, who we expected, Mr. Makai Johnson, who had 3 touchdowns and showed up against Northeast. East Lake, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's going on over there. I can't really speak much on them. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just not their year. Everything's not coming together for them. So I expect a heavy dose of Tarpon, and honestly, I expect a blowout. I do expect East Lake. I expect Maribel to show up. Million's still been showing up despite the losses. But I expect Tarpon Springs they're hitting that. They haven't hit their peak. They haven't hit their ceiling yet. I expect them to keep working and to keep coming through. What you guys think?
Yeah, same. East Lake. What are they like? Have they won a game yet this year?
No.
Nope.
No. Ooh. So again, too much for, and I was kind of high coming in on East Lake. I thought that, outside of the Camden County team that they were going to play in Zephyr Hills, I thought that a regular Pinellas County schedule, it would even them out, and they would at least get 1 or 2 wins. That Ellis Park loss really opened my eyes when they dropped the 0-3, and I was like, man, something's going on over at East Lake. I think we all agreed on that when we saw the 0-3, and now going forward, a loss last week, and now they have a tough Tarpon Springs team. Like Andy alluded to, I wonder how the mental is at this point, especially for seniors who had big aspirations, and already a quarter through the season, they are winless in the in the win count column. So hopefully they can pick themselves up and make it a game. I know that triangle, Tarpon Springs and East Lake and Pinellas, not Pinellas Park, but Palm Harbor, that's that little, next door rivalry. So maybe that'll play a part, and hopefully they can give them a game. But I think Tarpon Springs, I like them in this one.
Definitely. All right, man. We got St. Pete, Lakewood. This is a tough one, man. I mean, I definitely think knowing Jeff Jones, he's gonna be wearing he's gonna be feeling bad about missing that game. So I definitely think that he's gonna have some on his back as far as playing against Lakewood already, having that on the shoulder, and then making up for that loss. But at the end of the day, I think that St. Pete I think Lakewood. I like Lakewood. I don't know. I like Lakewood in this. I think that St. Pete, they showed a little bit of to me they just showed they weren't ready. And I think that Lakewood's gonna take advantage of that. And I think Lakewood right now, they still might be the better all-around team. Mr. Hines came from Lakewood, so it's gonna be a little bit of stuff there. I think that with this being 2 South County teams, I just think that Lakewood's gonna take it a little bit more serious, man, and come out on top. Not take it more serious, but I just think Lakewood's gonna really show their skill, and they're gonna be mentally focused. So I like Lakewood in this game. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think too. Lakewood definitely has a bad taste in their mouth. Go ahead, Andy. Say what you was going to say.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I was going to touch on the other game too. But St. Pete Lakewood, I'd say battle for St. Pete here. And I think these last 2 games, I mean, you almost have to throw the records out the door because they're rivalry games. I think you just gotta think Alabama, Auburn, that kind of mindset. It's like no matter what the records are, these teams will play each other, tooth and nail, and it'll somehow be close. So I think Jeff Jones being out and St. Pete losing 23-3 really showed. I mean, I think when you look at the end of the year and you're looking at MVP candidates, I mean, most valuable to his team.
Right.
And I think that kind of showed how valuable he is to his team, because without him, they score 3 points. But with him, it seems like they could score 30 plus on anybody. And if he's back and available, I'm gonna go with the Green Devils. I think Lakewood they've been extremely inconsistent. They got talent, but they gotta. To my knowledge, unless you guys want to correct me, it doesn't seem like they're missing anybody. They're just missing consistency. They just are not consistent week to week. St. Pete, at least I could give them the fact they lost, but there was there was like a reason to it. They were without their best player. So for me, Lakewood would have to, in essence, kind of show and take it from St. Pete. So I'm gonna go with St. Pete on this game.
Okay, definitely, man. Did you already? I know that we just saw some highlights from Mr. Tayshawn Bell. He's a hot hand right now as well. That's another. He's a hot hand. Even though they lost, he still showed up, and I think that he's gonna be balanced. Now I saw that did Aiden Wallace get taken out of the game, Green, and they put in Baez at quarterback?
Yeah, so that's going to be the deciding factor. He did have an ankle injury, so I don't know the severity of the injury. He was out with ice on his ankle. He got tackled on the sideline, and I guess he got rolled up on, and I can see him grimacing and rubbing that ankle. So I haven't heard the latest on that, but he did have ice on it, so that's why Baez had to come in and finish that game. And that could be key because it's a total difference from Aiden Wallace and Baez, because Baez is more of an athlete who's going to run around and try to make a play with his arm versus going through his progressions and throwing it to, the receiver who's open. I would say for just, devil's advocate from the standpoint of Andy, Jeff Jones didn't play defense. So whether he was at Palm Harbor, and to allude to what you were saying, Royce, St. Pete is the type of team that Palm Harbor shouldn't have been a challenge even without a Jeff Jones. Because let's just say Jeff Jones get hurt against Lakewood. What's going to be the catalyst for hypothetically speaking, what if Jeff Jones get hurt against Lakewood? Then what?
Then they lose.
From the standpoint of you took a less talented team, and St. Pete, granted, didn't have they most talented player, but he wouldn't have played defense anyway. So their defense still gave up 23 points.
Yeah.
Whether he was on the field, let's say he only scored 2 touchdowns, that would have been 14 points. Their defense still gave up 23. So my point.
So I agree. I agree with this. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it just. Oh, go ahead, Green.
No, and my point was saying this, and not to put too much information out there, but supposedly it was supposed to be a 2-game suspension, and the coach wrote a letter to the county, and they got it reduced to 1. I don't know this, what happened or severity, but I do know if you guys pay attention to what's going on, there was a kid at Northeast who said something to the ref and got suspended. So refs are really looking for like guys are talking and jawing and they go after the refs. And it could have been something like that. I'm not sure, but initially it was supposed to be 2 games. Coach wrote a letter, got it reduced to 1, so he'll be able to come back and play this week. But my thing was, again, it was upset because when you take a team like St. Pete, who had reeled off all those wins from last year up until now, and to lose to a Palm Harbor just because they didn't have, so-called the best player, I don't give them a pass for that.
Yeah, and what it boils down to is time. It boils down to time of possession.
Yeah,
Jeff Jones keeps he runs that ball first down. He runs that ball first down. That defense is not used to being on that field a long time. And then Palm Harbor already, they're not an explosive team, so they're gonna just run it down your throat, running down your throat, running down your throat, running down your throat. So you got a defense that's not used to being on the field. Now they're on the field even longer against a team that's just running it down their throat, chipping it away, chipping it away, chipping it away against them. So that should be, if Lakewood can honestly, if Baez shows up and the defense can really shut Jones down in the beginning and Lakewood could get a hot hand early, I mean, that might be to their advantage. But I really think that's really what it boils down to, the fact that Jeff Jones really controls that clock, really keeps that defense off the field, provides a lot of energy for that defense to go out. And when you're constantly coming off the field, probably sidelines, probably quiet, all of those type of things, that's the result they get. Because at the end of the day, the defense should have shown up. But we all know those could be, factors as well. That time of possession is huge, and that defense probably wasn't used to being out on the field that much. So definitely something to look forward to. Definitely, if I was a coach, I would definitely take a close look at that. Let's see, we have Pinellas Park and Gibbs is showing on the bottom down there, but of course, I'm pretty sure we all we all like Gibbs in this one. I mean, we all like Pinellas Park in this one.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, no. don't get it. But don't get it twisted now. The thing about Gibbs, man, they gonna show up now. Don't get it twisted. Gibbs is gonna come hard. But of course, man, it's gonna boil down to, man, this guy right here wearing them out. A little bit of K Nova's, a couple big plays, and I love Pinellas Park. What about you guys? I know it's gonna be pretty quick.
Yeah, Pinellas Park was sound on Friday. That kid right there, as we watch him, being able to see him with your own eyes, just allows you to see, like, man, he's a kid that, granted, had Triplet been there, he would have had to share carries with Triplet and probably wouldn't have been the starter. He would have probably been the guy to come in to kind of clean up or, share carries. But now that he has the starting role, man, he's taking advantage of every opportunity that he has. And against a solid defense like this, of course, he had over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. And even when he was hit solid, like you said, he still drew the look. He ran away from everybody. So it's like, man, he proved last night proved Friday night to me that he's, one of the top backs in the county that nobody's talking about.
And look at timing, man.
It helps when you got a nice, good, solid offensive line that, that's out in front of you. Yeah, because he brings it.
And see, this is what Clearwater's missing. You do not see anybody pulling.
Yeah, I mean, when I
watching them tape, these are pulling guards. Where are we seeing? You're not even seeing this anymore. You don't see this type of stuff no more, man.
Yeah, you're right, bro.
It's crazy.
When I tell you, they just was fundamentally sound, and from what I heard, they had a poster up in their locker room about stopping Bell, and they had something to go into the game to be looking forward to. And I don't think Lakewood had that. I think they just came in saying, we're going to play good defense and try to, keep the ball out of their hands or whatever. But Pinellas Park had another thing for them. And, some people can say it was the conditions, but Pinellas Park had to play on the same field as Lakewood. And, I'm not going to say anything about the refs, but man, it was a tough one for Lakewood. Yeah, and you get big plays called back time after time for stuff that you like. Come on, ref. It's like after the play, you know what I'm saying? Like way after the play, that flag come out, and you're like, all right, we see what kind of game this is going to be. But hats off to Pinellas Park. They definitely earned it and deserved it because from start to finish, they looked like the more prepared and the team that wanted it the most, I should say.
Definitely. Let's see. So next we got what about you, Andy? What you think? I just wanted to get yours real quick.
I think the game involving Pinellas Park that I'm looking forward to is next week against Manatee. I think when they got to go over the bridge and play the Hurricanes, I think that's a game that this is me just kind of over looking past Gibbs. I mean, I know they got athletes and everything. But if Pinellas Park does what they're supposed to do, then it sets up like a big matchup with Manatee, and their Manatee's coming off a big win up in Gainesville against Buchholz. Jaquez Green has that Hurricanes team playing really well, but you got two teams that play, I would say, different styles of offense. So that'd be a fun game. I'd say Patriots at Hurricanes potentially is that's a nice game.
Definitely. Next up, we got Berkeley Prep at Calvary. Man, Calvary got boy. They love their schedule, man. I can't be mad at them, but man, this would have been great. I mean, the way they loaded this is like they thought. I guess it's man. They're challenging themselves. If anybody is really putting this to the test, man, they're doing it.
That's what this new playoff system is predicated on, is strength of schedule. And a lot of people are, like me talking to Coach John Peacock over at Venice. I mean, he put together this schedule. When I was looking at it, I'm like, probably like 8 out of the 10 teams are state championship contending level teams. And, I know the last 2 years when it was Metro, Suburban, Rural, the big thing was just winning. Like the computer system didn't factor in like the team, the strength of your schedule, like the teams you were playing. All you had to do was win. So you could play 10 cupcakes and they would look at you at like you were, you were awesome. But not take into consideration you didn't play nobody along the way. This time around, you could be a 4-6 team, and I think this is where Calvary did a good job. You could be below 500, but this time the system's going to realize Calvary played a dang good schedule. It's not going to go, oh, they were 4-6 or 5-5. They're going to be like, they played Bishop Verot, they played First Baptist, they played Berkeley Prep. They play a lot of good teams. So I think it's going to work out for them, and it helps for the playoffs because at the end of the day, you're not playing cupcakes in the playoffs. You're playing good teams. So I think it only helps Coach Safford and his players to do what they're doing now. They're going to take some lumps, but I'd rather play a lot of good teams now and have a mediocre record, but have some success in the playoffs than go 10-0, play a bunch of cupcakes, and get ousted in the first round because you didn't get yourself ready for it.
Right, definitely, man. Do you think Calvary can pull this out?
With the way Berkeley's playing, I don't think it's out of the question. They continue to surprise me with losing the teams. I mean, Clearwater Central Catholic, obviously, that was the most little minor upset just because of the history between the two teams. But then Berkeley, they bounce back to beat Sarasota Booker, but then they go and lose to Carrollwood Day. And then Carrollwood Day just got beat by somebody. So I'm like, I don't know what the heck to think of Berkeley Prep. I know they got talent. They're kind of like Clearwater in a way, just with even more talent, which is more head scratching because it's like you guys just want a state championship. So this one's kind of tough. If Berkeley was kind of doing what they were doing and just kept on winning, I wouldn't even. This one would take me as long as it did Pinellas Park over Gibbs. I would say, give me P Park, give me the gut. But this one is like, I could see either team winning. To be honest, I don't think this is a clear cut game. There's a path for Calvary to win, and there's a path for Berkeley to win. So I don't know. This one's like it could really go either way.
And I know with Berkeley Prep, kind of last year they kind of slowed down, right, and then cranked up in the end, correct? Then
they went 8-2, I think, in the regular season. So, and then they end up 13 and they win 5 straight games and in the playoffs and win the state title. So they're a weird team.
Yeah, but one thing about it, Dallas Golden, he's a staple. He shows up. The rest of the team shows up. Man, you could be getting a top 25 in the country. Berkeley Prep. Unfortunate thing about it right now, I can't say the same. I can't say the same thing about Calvary. I love Calvary. I love what they're doing. But it's really it's on Berkeley Prep. It's on Berkeley Prep on this one. Calvary's going to score. Calvary's going to show up. Calvary's going to play their heart out. That's no question. It's just, will it be enough? I just don't know right now. So I'm going to go with Berkeley Prep on this one. I love Calvary, love you guys, but I'm going to go with Berkeley on this one.
Hey, Andy, I did have a quick question for you. So now that they've switched that for the playoffs, how does it work with teams that's in, like, I know each team, like teams have like a district, or they have like teams that's in their district. How does that work? Do they have to like basically win those games, or is it by strength of schedule? I heard you kind of play, alluding to how a team can go, let's say they go 4-6, but they've played, the 4 teams that they beat, let's say they were highly ranked teams, but then let's say the 6 teams that the 6 games that they lost to maybe was teams that was considered in their district. How would the committee look at that? Does that play a factor, or is it just the points? Is it a point system, or how does that work?
Well, it's very similar to the last couple of years. It's 8 teams in each region, which obviously there's the 4 teams in each class, or 4 regions in each classification. So you get your 8 teams in each, and that's the district champs are the guaranteed teams that go in. So if you win your district, you're in no matter what. It's now the other teams. They are based on what would be kind of like a combination of, win-loss record. Your strength of schedule is very important. Point differential, a lot of variables that go into it. So it's not, I know last year it was, or last 2 years, it was really like your record, how good you were record wise. It took very little consideration into who you played. So it could have been like, just hypothetically, and this isn't even a district, but I'm just going to throw some teams in just for, so you could have had a Seminole, Osceola, Calvary, and then a Eastlake all in a district. This is all hypothetical. And then, Eastlake, Calvary are playing, I would say, tougher schedules than Osceola, Seminole. But, the other 2 teams are winning. And not to say they're not playing nobody, but who they're playing isn't as, tough as the other 2 teams. This time around, which Seminole and Osceola the last couple of years, if they finished with like 8-2 records versus Calvary and like Eastlake, maybe they finished like 5-5, 4-6. Seminole and Osceola, they go to the playoffs, no questions asked, just because those records they're better and they probably have better point differential. This time around, it kind of flips. So Calvary could go 5-5, 6-4, and Osceola, Seminole could go 8-2, but Calvary could, would be favored just because the strength of schedule, what they're doing, and max preps is really the main factor into it, because that's who the FHSA is using for their power ratings. So I think all you got to do is go into that and kind of look at where do they have certain teams versus, I bet I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure you could look at, they probably have Calvary rated higher than like the couple teams I mentioned. I don't know if Eastlake's higher than them just because they haven't won a game, but if you're not playing anybody, you're not going to get rewarded for winning those games is what I'm coming down to. Is I think that's why a lot of coaches around the state, they decided to load up on their schedule instead of like try to play this, the worst teams and go 10-0 to say, hey, we went 10-0. Like they'd rather just you got to play some good teams in order to actually make the playoffs, because if you don't win the district title, there's other ways to get in, but you got to play some teams.
Right. Definitely, man. Great. Thank you for the explanation, man, because a lot of people need to hear that, because I'm pretty sure at the end of the season, there might be a little bit of disappointment. So I'm gonna save that clip and run it back for some people.
Oh yeah.
But let's run through these two teams real quick. We got a couple minutes. Seminole, Dunedin. We already know what the time it is. But Dunedin, man, listen, Dunedin got some players. Dunedin's going to show up too. That's one of those teams that's going to show up. They got some guys that are tackling out there and catching that ball. Mr. Oster over there at Dunedin, he's a staple from over there as well. But I love Seminole in this one. What about you guys?
Yeah, Mason Stark, my guy. I think I like Seminole. Like what Coach Augie's doing over there.
Yeah, I definitely love what he's doing over there. What about you?
I know Coach Disney's up against his alma mater, Seminole, but you gotta go with the Warhawks here. They're playing really good football, and I mean, and I agree with you. Dunedin's got some guys. I think their team I saw in their district, because they're in a district with Nature Coast, Hudson, and Anclote. They got a shot here. Nature Coast just lost to a winless Hudson team. Dunedin, if they can beat Anclote and Nature Coast, we could be talking about Dunedin competing for a district title. So that's something. Yeah, something to think about.
That's why they're playing hard. Okay, that's a good reason for them to play. So I'm not gonna lie, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Dunedin, do your thing. I love to be talking about Dunedin making the playoffs, man. I love to see a resurgence over there. Coach Disney is sticking with it. He does not complain. He's never came on. He's always been positive. So I love what those guys. I love what he's doing over there. Definitely love what he's doing over there. Last game before we go into our players of the week, we got Northeast and number 10 Osceola. Do you guys think Northeast could pull it out?
Man, it's hard to believe Northeast only has one win on the season, and that was against Countryside early, and they haven't smelt a victory since. And this could very well be the team that they can get a victory against. It'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. What do you say, Andy?
I'm gonna go with these Osceola boys. I think Northeast at the beginning of the year. I think if it was game number 1, I would have rolled with Northeast, but I hate to take anything away from these Osceola guys. They really have. Coach Montgomery has done a nice job with Gavin Gollish, and then he's got Brant Scott, and we call him Dylan X, I guess, because I don't think any of us can say his last name. Yeah. But they got some pieces. They got some guys. I like what they're doing.
Definitely. All right. So yeah, I love Osceola as well. I'm gonna take the favorite on that. Before we go, man, we're gonna go over just a few top players real quick. Got some guys, man. Want to go ahead and shout out, man. Definitely want to shout out our guy Makai Johnson. He showed up. He showed up big this week. Who else we got? Mr. Bell, even though they lost, got to shout out him. Because he showed up both on the rushing and that receiving end, so got a shout out to him. Mr. Jenkins as well. He's the touchdown maker over there at CCC when they're in that within that 5-yard line. Of course, Mr. Mnon, if you didn't get a chance to watch his tape, even though they got blew out, man, Mr. Mnon came. He brought that hat. He's a little guy, man. I love to watch this guy plays offense, defense, wherever. Whenever he touches the ball, or even on defense, he's a missile. Mr. Regala, and got some guys from Palm Harbor. Any guys you guys want to shout out?
Well, of course, I want to shout out the two guys from Pinellas Park, Mr. Nobles and also Mr. McNeil. I had him as the player of the week last week against Golden Gate team. He had 3 touchdowns against them. And once I saw their record and who they, that they wasn't that good of, that highly caliber of team, I said, I'm curious to see how he does against a more talented defense, a stacked defense with athletes. And he repeated the performance. So hats off to Zaire McNeil, man. Shouts out to him.
All right, all good. And I know Andy, he's been traveling out of the county, so he hasn't got the chance to really watch. Anybody you seen stood out to you, Andy?
You took the one guy. I got to see some stats, and I get tagged in like a bajillion things, like you guys do. I was gonna say Mekhi Johnson, just the 3 touchdowns, big game against Northeast, but